Hey everybody! Coming at you live from my shop. Uh, now, just a little bit of an update, a little bit of information. Everybody knows my videos have gotten very long. They're long, like almost like a TV show length. And so what I've done is they take a lot of planning, they take a lot of preparing. You know, it's a big deal for me to go out and film them. So I wound up with two cameras because I was always running out of room on my SD card and I was running out of battery. Okay, well, okay, now that you know that, I went out yesterday and my last video was the El Cheapo Fireplace. Well, I made some modifications to it, and after I made the modifications, I decided I was going to show it in a different style shelter. So I wanted to show it in a super cool shelter that I've never shown before, and it's called Flathead's Frame Shelter. Really a cool shelter. So I went out, gathered everything up, had everything prepared, planned, went out, filmed, wound up with 1 hour and 7 minutes of footage. Well, as I was filming, I'll use one camera till the battery dies, and then I'll go to the next camera. Well, as I was filming, I kept noticing everything was blurry on the viewfinder, and I thought, well, that's odd. And I kept wiping the lens off the front and looking at it, and then I filmed, and when I got home and I went to edit, it turns out that the digital focus is completely destroyed on one of my cameras, and all it does is it shows clear what's about a foot away, but then anything the further away it gets is just all blurry. So that camera's ruined. I'm down to one camera, so all that footage is just wasted. I can't show it. But so anyway, I think what I'm going to do is, as time permits, whenever I can get back out again, I'm just going to show the flathead frame because I'll be limited to one camera. I may bring the extra battery with me though, because I mean that'll help me out. But anyway, basically the thing is all that footage is wasted and gone, and I don't have time to go out and film it again anytime soon. But while I got you here, and I won't show the fireplace in that one because that just takes a whole bunch of extra time. But I'm going to show it here because I did manage to show ahead of time. I caught on my old camera, I caught some of the footage of me making it that I was going to add into that video. And I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. This is what the old fireplace looked like. Okay, if you saw the El Cheapo Bushcrafter fireplace, okay, it was basically, the back of it was smooth like this. Okay, let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that other footage before I show you and talk just a little bit about this, and then I got one other thing to tell you, and then I'll let you go. Now, what I built the back side of my oven with is just simply a can, like a Christmas tin. And what this was is this was just a can that like cookies or chocolate or peanuts or something came in. And the beauty of it is that not only does it have a lid for sealing off when you're not using it, but it's also the perfect size for a percolator. See, it just it fits right on there and seals off perfectly. Because when it becomes a part of the chimney, when you're not using it, you can cover it up so that the smoke won't come up out of it. But whenever you are actually cooking on it, you ain't got to worry about smoke because this is such a tight fit. Ain't that neat? Alright, now I know the back side of my chimney here looks kind of rough the way I've cut it open. But what I've done is I've cut it open and flared all this out so that the smoke would come up, directed up towards this way. And I've cut this off about as much as I care to cut it off at an angle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it right here, as straight as I can get it. And I'm going to rivet inside on the back side. And then on the front here, I'm just going to fill in with metal to support it. And then that way I'll be able to put my pot right on there and the flames will come up right from the inside. It ain't going to be pretty at all, but it'll work.
Alright, here's kind of a view of it, how I've got it mounted so far, and it's held in by just a couple of rivets on the inside. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, where I can get a hold of it. What I'm going to do now is I've got a transition piece laid out of cardboard. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to roll it and I'm going to wrap it around, because this piece was kind of thin anyway. And what I'm going to do then, I'm going to put some little ears down here on the bottom, and I'm going to bend some little ears off, and I'm going to rivet it all the way around the bottom, and that'll seal it off and just give it a little bit more strength. Okay, see, then once I get this done, the pot will sit right on top and the flames will come up through here. Alright, I got the cardboard piece laid on the metal, and then I cut it out and then I rolled the piece over. Okay, and this makes a little bit more sense. I left a little bit of room here and I cut all these little ears out and I drilled holes in them, and that's where the rivets will be. And then there'll be another row of rivets around the top. So when I go to put this thing on, you can see how it's going to be mounted down here at the bottom and the sides. And I'm going to put all these rivets in right around here and up around here, and it's going to hold it on. Okay. Now you may look at this piece and say that this was a lot of trouble to make it. That why didn't I just make the whole thing? Well, the thing is basically all I wanted out of this can was this lip around the top and the lid. Okay. Because that would have been very, very hard to make, and it happened to be a perfect match for that pot. And I wanted to be able to seal off where the flames were coming up, because the idea behind a fireplace is you should have the opening in the front to where it draws the air through and makes it go out the chimney. You can't have any gaps here because the smoke will want to come out here. Okay? So see, when I get done with it, I'm going to be able to seal it off, or I will be able to seal it off with a coffee pot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rivet the bottom, rivet around here, and then it'll be done.
All right, now here's another view of it with it finished. Hopefully that other footage was okay. But anyway, there was a piece that I added later on because I used this. I tried it out, and there was a little bit of smoke coming around this back side. So what I did is I bent up an extra piece and I put it in there. You can kind of see that seals it off real good. But anyway, I don't know everything. Sometimes I still learn from commenters. And one of the commenters had said one time something that I thought that I had heard before. And they were saying that the idea behind a fireplace is the fact that while everything is sealed off, that's what makes, and you got one opening, that is what makes the draw that brings in the oxygen and pushes the smoke out through the top. So I got to thinking about that, and then when there were some suggestions about how do you cook on it, some way of modifying the door on the back. Well, there needed to be a door on the back, because in my experience in the past, if you ever cooked with anything in here, if you ever had anything directly in the fire, it was blocking the flow. So it made sense to me when people were saying, like, why don't you come up with something for the back? Then that's when I came up with the back here, because it's sealed off when I'm not using it. And I have two different coffee percolators that fit perfectly on it. It just happens to be just the right diameter to fit on it, which is pretty cool. That way I can use it and it'll completely seal off, and when I'm not using it I can't. And my cook pot just barely seals up on it. It's not as good a fit as a percolator, but of course all I have to do is take the insides out of this and this will work. So, and one other thing is down here on the bottom, everybody was concerned about the wind blowing this fireplace over, okay, on the other shelter. And I can simply say that I have personally never had any kind of problem with it blowing over. And I bet I got 100 comments over and over and over and over from everybody. The wind's going to blow it over. And I answered it about 100 different times. and it's pretty much the same thing. I never use any kind of fire, any kind of fireplace, any kind of wood stove in high winds. Certainly not in a shelter, because I mean, even if something is secure, you've still got wind whipping up, creating turbulence and draw and all kinds of crazy things, and you can't control a fire that way. But I have piled rocks all around them in the past, and that makes them kind of stable. And but I've never had any trouble with them falling over. But it's simple to pin it down. And on this one, I added the modifications, and it's probably a good thing because it's not that big of a deal. These little eye stakes, I use them for everything. Okay, and all you got to do is say I put a hole in the backside right here, and all you do is you just put the pin into the ground right there. You pin that in at an angle on that side, and then there's one over here on this side too. I got a hole right in there, and you pin it into the ground. And then on the front, I've got holes here on the front too. Right there. Let me hang it off a minute. And then right here, where you pin it into the ground. See? And that keeps it stable. Okay? So, anyway, alright. I've shown that, and I have one other thing I'm going to show while I got you here. Somebody asked one time, they said recently, how do you attach your knives to your sheaths? Well, what it is these type of sheaths, K-Bar and Ontario make a few that have two loops on them to hold it in. Well, the majority of these designs, you only have to undo the top one to pull your blade out, which leaves this other loop pretty much wide open for whatever you want to do with it. So I told them that what I did is I used Velcro, industrial strength Velcro, and I've got two pieces on this one that I use for different what do you call it? A pouch. I can either put a pouch on here or a small fishing kit or a knife. And now the way I attach a knife is on these K-Bar sheaths, Cordura style, that have the two loops. You can take a smaller sheath that's Cordura that's got a belt loop, okay? And the way I attach them is I put Velcro down on the bottom. Okay, industrial sticky back Velcro, and I put the other part on here. It's sticky back, stays on. And then all you got to do, let's see if I can get this good, is you undo the top loop here, okay, and you slide it on. All right. Well, it's the bottom loop. And then all you have to do is you snap it, and then you take this and you just set it on. And that's it. And that's how you mount them. There's nothing much to it. Ain't that neat? Anyway. Alright. I was wanting to bring you a real exciting adventure with the shelter and everything. But it's not gonna happen this weekend. Because it was terrible. I'm still depressed over it. An hour and 7 minutes of really good footage, just completely down the toilet. So, anyway, I guess this is the shortest video I ever had. It wound up still being pretty long. But anyway, that's the modifications on the fireplace. I think it's going to be a great fireplace because I'll get heat off the front and be able to cook off the backside. So, anyway, when I get a chance, I'll grab my one remaining camera and I'll get out in the woods and I'll show you the flathead frame shelter because it's a really cool shelter. Alright, till next time, I'll see you. Alright, kind of backed up a little bit and I'm going to show you where the chimney is going to sit.
Alright, now one more thing right here is that I forgot to show a minute ago was the concerns about how you stake this thing down. Well, all you got to do is put a couple of little holes in it. I got holes in the front and the back, and you just stab some stakes in the ground. Alright, as you can see now, here I have, there's my fireplace. Let me give you kind of a side view of it right here. And you can see how the entire fireplace is exposed, but you don't want it touching your tarp. Now, let's go down here. I got my percolator sitting on it. You can see what a nice fit it is, and fire will be down in there. Alright, now I've got these pins. I got these holes in the back side right here where I've got it pinned down. Okay, now let's go on the inside right here. Now I'm going to clear out all this pine straw. Oh, I'm going to clear out all this pine straw right here. I'm probably going to move it again. But the way you do it with the front is I have drilled a little hole right here. Like I said, I clear out all this pine straw tonight before I have a fire. And you just simply take a pin and you pin it in the ground. No big deal. I carry them on a carabiner. And that's the little container that I had the wing nuts in. Throw all that over to the side. Let's see. And that will keep it from blowing over. Okay? Ain't that neat? Let me kick back in here for a minute. So that's what the fireplace looks like. I'm leaning back as far as I can. And see, I don't have to pull that. I'm going to have to tie this tarp off. I'm going to have to tie this tarp around right here. That chimney gets a little bit hot, but not hot enough to melt the tarp. So I got a little bit of airspace right there. That's where I'll stack all the wood. That way I ain't got to come inside the shelter every time. As I'm cutting the wood, I'll just slide it under right there. Now I'll show you the final part of how the roof is done. Alright, I'm just holding the camera by hand now because the way the shelter is, I'm just trying to kind of show everything. And you can see underneath right here, the way you've got, everything is underneath the tarp. Let me move over a little bit. I'll go down like this. You kind of see how it's underneath there. You see why I did a lot of the filming of what's on the inside before I ever put the cover over it. And see, another thing right here too that you can do is whenever you do this, you're going to pull these super tight. You want your the ridge line, you want as tight as you can get it, and then the tie outs, you want them as tight as you can get them. Now right here where it's drooping, you can tie another piece of cordage and you can hang a cup for collecting fresh water, which is kind of cool. Let's see. Walk over this way. Get another view of it. I'll go down so that you can see, and you can see it's like, that's like your porch. You know, that's your roof covering. You got, and not only you've got this behind your bedding. Remember I said that you've got the storage, and you could store some stuff out front right there too if you wanted to. Let me walk around to the other side. I run out of time. I know this is going to be a long video. I'm not even going to bother with making the fire, but you get the idea right there of how it is. Then you can kind of see how you've got the front of the shelter covered up. Walk around here. See how you got the roof over it. Walk over here. I hope y'all had a lot of fun with this. And so you want that just to come over to the point of the shelter or maybe over. And so you got a huge roof, and now you're going to be keeping everything dry. You're going to have more dry ground in front of you. But this little gap right here, see, I'm going to be out here running around taking firewood and just stacking firewood, and I'll just be throwing it under there. Now, see, with the way I've added the cooking thing on here, like I say, if you try to cook food from the front of the fireplace, any extra stuff you put into that fireplace is going to disrupt the flow of air. So that's why I added this thing on the back. And what I'll do is I'll be inside the shelter and like, I mean, right here, I'm under the roof, you know? And this actually may need to be up a little higher. I may have to retie it because the smoke is probably going to hit it the way it is. But, I mean, I don't even have to be inside the shelter. I can have the fire going, and I can just reach over and I got my pot right here. Or I could be inside the shelter. Let's see. If I wanted to block this opening right here, I could be sitting inside my shelter feeding the fire from this side, and then whenever the coffee's brewed, I just reach around and grab it, and then I'll cap it so that the smoke won't be coming out there and the smoke will be coming out higher. So, oh, I hope you had fun. I had fun. And remember, as I always say, if I do something that you think is dangerous, don't do it. I think I'm a pretty safe guy. I'm still in one piece. But anyway, y'all get out in the woods and y'all have fun and y'all enjoy life. And get off the couch, get out in front of the TV. Watch YouTube though. And I will see you in the next one.